shake up at 5:30 a.m., laundry situation not good. And when your focus is on helping your clients, it's easy to forget about yourself. But NASM knows trainers.
Morning, Ryan. It's okay.
And staying in front of the day isn't always
Hey,
as simple as
Ryan.
1, 2, 3. So when the unexpected has you pressing pause,
What's the latest on creatine?
I'm going to get back to you on that.
let NASM1 help you press play. Visit NASM.org to sign up for a membership today.
Hey everyone, welcome to Strong Mind, Strong Body. I'm your host, Angie Miller. Today we're talking about mental health and more specifically, Ayurvedic solutions to mental health. It's my contention. I'm not sure that everyone would view it the same way, that our approach to mental health is often reactive versus proactive. And that's why I have Dr. Sweta Vikram on my show today. Dr. Sweta she is a doctor of Ayurveda. She's an adjunct professor and she's a best-selling author. And I want her to share her holistic view of mental health and how the different doshas can influence mental states and emotional resilience, and also how they can help with healing practices so that we can balance our emotions. I think that this is a must listen for anyone who might be interested in unique, kind of out of the box, but yet time-tested wisdom to help cultivate better mental well-being beyond all the conventional approaches. Because Dr. Vikram's contention is that mental well-being should be an ongoing process, not just a response to stress or crisis. And honestly, that is my delivery and my contention 100%. Why do we only have to seek help when we're in crisis? Why can't we just seek everyday guidance from people that we trust? I think that could be a very provocative thing for all of us. So I'm going to bring in Dr. Sweta and I'm going to have her introduce herself. How are you doing?
Hi, Angie. It's so nice to be here. And we both get to talk about mental health and Ayurveda and how can we help others who are, looking for health to empower their emotional and mental well-being. So very excited to be here.
I am excited for you to be here. I know what I know about mental health and well-being, being a licensed therapist, but I don't know what you know about Ayurvedic medicine. So I do know that our mental health care system does focus on treating problems after they arise. And that is kind of the way that we are set up, whether we believe in that as therapists or not. That's kind of what people do. They come to us in crisis. But how does Ayurveda's approach to mental well-being fundamentally differ from this kind of reactive model?
So one of the big things with Ayurveda, which is a 5,000-year-old ancient healing system from India, is it honors the mind-body connection, mind-body consciousness, spirit, soul, however we want to address that. But I'll focus on the mind and body. So, and so does Western science. We in Western science, we say 85% of your serotonin, your happy hormone, is produced in the gut. So I want to start with something simple as how we eat according to Ayurveda will impact how we think, and how we think may impact our dietary choices, and all of that impacts mental well-being. So what do I mean by that? When there are three primary doshas or constitution in Ayurveda, which is called Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. And I'll keep it super simple. There are 5 elements, like Chinese medicine, traditional Chinese medicine. Ayurveda focuses on this elemental system, and the combination of these 5 elements create these unique doshas or constitution or your DNA or your blueprint. So for instance, let's talk about anxiety, right? And again, Ayurveda is customized, so it could be a combination of imbalances in a different dosha. But if you're just talking very generally speaking, anxiety is often looked as a Vata imbalance because a nervous system is governed by Vata dosha, and Vata is made up of air and ether. See, the anxiety is oftentimes, energetically speaking, it's upward moving. No one says I'm anxious. This is I'm depressed, which is We'll talk about that in a moment. Anxiety is like, I can't keep my mind shut. Oh, it's all upward moving. And vata is very light. It's very subtle. These are these qualities. It's mobile. So it moves through. So oftentimes people who are dealing with anxiety from an Ayurvedic perspective, I'll also talk about the digestion. They are constipated. Some of them have sleep issues. So, you're not looking at a disease in isolation. You're looking at it as, how can we get to the root of what is creating all of this? And there is, in the US, Ayurveda is practiced as alternate medicine, but I've done my internships in India, Angie, at hospitals, which are just Ayurvedic hospitals. So it's set up for psychotherapy. There's a department set up for gynecology. There's a department set up for pediatrics, right? And all of the treatments, so to speak, happen through diet, lifestyle, therapy, therapeutic procedures, which are called panchakarma, and also Ayurvedic herbs. So that's, I think, the big difference, where Ayurveda is saying your mind and body are connected, and how we eat will impact how we think. That's something very important to remember.
Well, and I think that you did a great job of explaining something that is otherwise very complicated and distilling it down. And I think that, to your point, I have done work with Ayurveda and I've done work with the doshas, but it's been years. And I do know my next question is going to ask you about this, because I think you did an amazing job, by the way. And I like the way, too, that you refer to, our general blueprint or our general constitution. Like, I think we as humans, we have some personal insight. We know whether we're kind of high wired. We know whether we tend to be more high responders to stress. We know we look in the mirror at ourselves every day. We kind of know what our natural inclination is. And so I like that reference of blueprint or constitution versus, this is your personality. It's kind of like saying this is what your foundation is, and here's how we can work with it. But I have a question. I know in the past, and I'm kind of throwing this out there, but there are I remember there was a free tool. I can't remember where I did it, where you could test like your doshas, and you could kind of get a general idea. Do you have a recommendation where people could go?
So yes and no, there are many spaces, but one of my concern as an Ayurvedic doctor is, most people, we try to be honest, but are we 100% honest? What I mean by that, when you're answering these dosha quizzes, so in Ayurveda, we work on the imbalances. So remember, this is the DNA, the blueprint, place of good health, longevity. We keep getting into imbalances. There's 6 stages to a disease developing. The idea is to be back here, right? Very often when people answer these questions, they answer a question of imbalances and balances. So if someone has, and I'll give that as an example, we, according to Ayurveda, spring season, late winter to early spring is called kapha season. Kapha is also a dosha. There's also kapha time of the day. It's very intuitive how this works. One of the big challenges that people have this season is allergies. And it's the properties of kapha, right? Water and earth. Congestion. Bread is like that. Very stable when in balance, but we eat too much bread, too many bagels, too many naans. It's like, I can't move, I need to nap. Right? So I think just knowing that, okay, I am in kapha season right now. What do I need to do to stay in balance? So applying those opposite qualities of kapha is heavy, kapha is dense. Think mucus, think congestion, think that lethargy, think extra sensitivity to cold, the desire to not work out, the water retention, typical signs of imbalance. So we apply those opposite qualities, which is something as simple as habits over motivation, keeping your workout clothes, your shoes out by the door, knowing, and again, like, I'm not on any agenda, I'm speaking from an Ayurvedic lens, like dairy can increase kapha, fried foods, sugar will increase kapha. So this might not be the season to sit with that bowl of ice cream. You want to get that ice cream, wait for the weather to get warmer, because things are already congested. And also emotionally, this is the season when we feel a lot more congested than summer or even fall for that matter.
Yeah. Well, and it makes sense because this is me every morning recently with a heated eye mask on, trying to get my eyes to open up from all the gunk, from all the pollen in the air. But I live here in North Carolina, so our cars are literally covered right now. It's insane how much pollen is in the air right now. So, that was very well said, and it makes a lot of sense to me. And I get what you're saying. If you take an online quiz, you know yourself and you have good intuition and insight. And yet, what might you be missing by kind of quote unquote self-diagnosing? That makes a lot of sense. So maybe walk us through a specific Ayurvedic practice, like I'm not sure I'm saying it right. Is it Nasya therapy or
Yes, it's one of my favorites. So,
okay?
yeah, please.
Can you walk us through that in a simple way, like to help us balance our emotions and support mental health? I'm ready to get one with myself, so I'm ready to experience this myself.
Okay. It is one of my favorite therapies. So, when you go for an Ayurvedic detox, to keep it simple, you have a practitioner, a therapist who's working on you physically when they do Nasya therapy. Nasya, basically, Nasa means nose, right? So Nasya therapy is a therapy connected to nose. And from an Ayurvedic perspective, the nose is supposed to be the gateway to your brain. So it works on all of this. And think of allergies, think of congestion. So again, from an Ayurvedic perspective, Angie, like sinuses are a place of kapha imbalance. Lungs are the seat of kapha. So it makes sense why we have kapha imbalance this season, right? And if someone is taking a quiz and they've not had cough in the past and they say, no, I always had this or I never had this is where you might come up with faulty information, right? So for Nasya therapy, coming back to the therapy, I use there's Banyan Botanicals. There are many brands, good Ayurvedic brands that you can buy online, a bottle of Nasya oil. And I have a blog post, Angie, which I'm happy to share with you if you want to share with your audiences later. It's basically you tilt your head and you put 3 to 5 drops in one nostril, inhale it, then put it in the other nostril. Your head is still tilted like this, and then you massage. And there is a Western science proving how Nasya works, but to just keep it simple, it's oleating the nasal passageway. So, when allergies come and sit here, it's also protecting and lubricating. When Vata goes high, so when we fly, air and ether is Vata dosha. So travel, especially air travel, increases Vata. So I bring a bottle of Nasya oil with me, I'll tilt it, and I never feel dry or dehydrated here. Because if this is dry, you'll feel like, oh, you can't sleep well on the airplane because of the dryness. So it helps with that. With Nasya therapy, it's very good for stress relief because, again, it's working on your nerves. It's going up here, working on the brain, the sinuses. So it helps reduce stress. And women tend to have more stress. This is statistics compared to men. It's just also the nature of responsibility.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, and it's also the nature of responsibilities, be it financial, emotional, familial, all of that. So Nasya therapy it's that simple toolkit, and the bottle is airplane travel size friendly. I am not promoting a brand here, but I personally use Super Nasya from Banyan Botanicals. I used to buy it from my teacher, Dr. Vasant Lad, one of my teachers from the Ayurvedic Institute, but now I think they're all together in one brand. So you can find Nasya or Super Nasya. It base is generally sesame oil. There are herbs in it. So what's working is also these herbs that calm down the nervous system. It's actually making a neurological difference because when you inhale, it's moving into all of these passage areas, but you don't want to do it if you have a cold, if you have a sinus infection, because remember, sinus, cold, mucus is kapha. Oil also has heavy properties just like kapha. And in Ayurveda, we say like increases like. So you have a congestion and you use that Nasya therapy, do the Nasya therapy, it'll increase the congestion. So wait for it. Yeah. And sometimes, you don't want the dropper to touch your nose just to avoid contamination. Sometimes I'll put like a couple of drops here and just use my little pinky finger and just massage the insides. And it can feel really good on a straight, like I live in New York City, and some days can feel so dry. You could drink 3 liters of water and nothing hydrates you. But something as simple as that, you don't wake up in the middle of the night. It has been my experience.
Yeah, well, I like that. I like that it's a simple ritual and it's something very accessible to everyone. And it can help just kind of maintain balanced emotions and support and also just offer some relief. And I love that whole explanation. So, Shveta, beyond like meditation and breath work, because we hear a lot about that even in Western society, what
Right.
daily routines or rituals does Ayurveda recommend for maintaining optimal mental health before crisis strikes? I mean, you just named one of them, but what's another kind of daily routine outside of meditation and breath work?
Absolutely. So there's this concept of dinacharya in Ayurveda. Din means day, and charya is the routine. So having these daily routines um, really helps, and they're seasonal. So I'll because we are in kapha season, we'll get into summer soon. So like waking up before 6 a.m. 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. is kapha time. It's that Ayurvedic clock. So if you wake up after 10 a.m., realize how, there's this sense of grogginess because again, kapha is heavy. So waking up on time, starting your day with a cup of warm water. I wouldn't necessarily say lemon, even though that's hyped, because if someone has high pitta or pitta imbalance, lemon is too acidic for them. So just something as simple as sipping on a cup of warm water. I like to say 5 things I'm grateful for because it's so easy to get wound up in the day. So 5 things that you're grateful for, not looking at the phone for at least 30 minutes. Give your brain, your nervous system to slowly come out of that beautiful state of slumber. The first thing you see is an email or a message or a piece of news that just can set your sympathetic system in nervous system into an override. It's like,
Yeah.
and when you do this, notice how we are impacting our digestion. Everything feels like a crisis. So yeah, waking up before 6 a.m., that might feel arduous to some people. So start with 7 a.m. Like if 6 a.m. feels too much, there is beauty in watching the sunrise, in being one with nature, following that circadian rhythm. And like even towards the end of the day, I know we live in times where busyness, hyperproductivity, or concept of hyperproductivity is oftentimes glamorized. But I'll give a simple example without any judgment. Take away whatever that feels like to you. When you look at birds, end of the day, when the sun sets, and I'm not talking about winter sun, I'm talking about the spring sun. It's bright out. 5:36
Mhm.
is when the sun sets. Notice how the birds are returning home. That's circadian rhythm. We get a second wind at 10 p.m. and I'm like, I worked through the night. Once in a while, we all do what we have to do to stay afloat in the world that it is today. But maybe learn to honor the circadian rhythm. And Ayurveda will tell you again, if you can get into like bed before 10 p.m., because 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. is kapha time, 6 p.m. it's the same block of time in the evening as well, 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. So remember, kapha is one of its biggest qualities, it's heavy. So you might be feeling drowsy around 8:39, 9:30, but we say, oh, I'm going to fight it and I'll get some work done. 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. when it's oftentimes people's most productive time because, hello, that's pitta, right? And it's the same time in the evening, 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. So when we get that second wind, we think we are more productive, but you're actually taxing your system. Another thing to know is every organ flushes out, detoxifies at a certain time. So if you're in bed by 9, you're asleep by 9:30, 10:30, your body and your brain needs rest to detox, right? Your body needs rest to function optimally. But at the same time, your organs are also detoxifying themselves. So and I'm just making this hour up, bear with me. Let's say at 10:30 p.m. is when your liver decides to detoxify itself, and that's the time. But at midnight you think, oh, I need some potato chips and a beer because I'm working through this thing and I'll work till 2 in the morning. So now the toxins in the body will stay until next day.
Yeah.
Once or twice it might not make a difference. Over a period of time, that's how illnesses start. And I think you might agree with me, Angie. Like, no one just wakes up and says, I have anxiety. No one wakes up and says, I had a heart attack. There are always, Ayurveda tells us 80% of the diseases start in the mind. And a large majority of diseases, their signs and symptoms. We just, oh, I'm lactose intolerant, I'll take a pill. Wine gives me acid reflux, I'll take a pill.
Yeah.
But all of that is impacting our mental health as well.
Well, and I think you did a great job of laying all of that out there. And I've also heard that so many times, like that being consistent, having routines, gratitude, trying to go device free, and most importantly, being consistent with the bedtime and making sure that we give our body proper time to rest and restore. And you're right, everyone has to do what they have to do. I've done it many, many times where I stay up and I say, I just have to get this done. But my system suffers for days afterwards because, like you said, your body is so conditioned. Your body is such a well-oiled machine that knows exactly what it needs when it needs it. And if we honor it and we respect it, we get better results. It's when we fight what we know that we end up paying the price. But I want to take a minute and reset. So this is Strong Mind, Strong Body. I'm your host, Angie Miller, and I'm talking to Dr. Sweta Vikram. And we're talking about not just mental health, but Ayurvedic solutions. I've talked so much about mental health on this show, but I've never, ever had anyone come on and talk about mental health through an Ayurvedic lens. And for those of us like me who are so interested in learning about the world and the mind through different lenses, I think that this is fascinating. And I believe that my hope is that you will too. So, Sweta, I have a question for you. For those listeners who are skeptical about ancient healing practices, because to your point, in India, it's built into the system. Here, it is not. So for listeners to be skeptical, that makes sense to me, of course, because it's not in our everyday language. What kind of evidence or scientific understanding supports Ayurveda's approach to mental well-being?
So I'll start with simple as circadian rhythm. Western science is talking about the importance now. Ayurveda had this mentioned in the books 5,000 years ago in the medical textbooks. There's this concept called Shat Pavli. Shat means 100 and Pavli means walking. It's not a Hindi word. It's a regional word, a language called Marathi. The concept of 10,000 words, it pretty much, Ayurveda has been talking about this for 5,000 years ago. So alternate nostril breathing, Scientific American and I think Harvard Medical Journal, they both, don't quote me, but I believe it's those two publications that recently wrote about the benefits of alternate nostril breathing and its impact on respiratory health and mental well-being. And I'll give you an example, Angie. Last week I was giving a talk and this woman who attended my event said to me, I'd given a talk at this place over fall and I talked about Ayurvedic cooking. One of the things I suggested to her in my talk was Ayurveda recommends not mixing dairy with fruits. And now Western science is also catching up and saying, avoid mixing dairy with fruits. One is acidic, one is alkaline. Then your stomach gets confused. What am I digesting first? And she said, in just doing one simple thing, her digestion had improved.
Yeah. And so I think what you're saying is this has been around that that some of these practices are actually getting interwoven into a Western mindset, but that the principles and the science dates back 5,000 years. And this has been a part of Ayurvedic medicine. It's just that traditionally people don't hear about it. They see it through a woo-hooey lens. And yet the minute, sorry to be a little spicy here, the minute it shows up on TikTok in a viral video, we all believe it. And it's kind of crazy because, to your point, we've had this knowledge, but it doesn't hit the mainstream until it does. And I love what you're offering here and saying, hey, this isn't so woo-hooey. It's in so much is supported now. And a lot of people don't know about alternate nostril breathing unless they get it from the yoga instructor or they do have an Ayurvedic practitioner, right?
Yes. And I wanted to add something to that, Angie. Just the way we've been talking about doshas, that is the physical mind body, there is also something called mahagunas, which is the qualities of the mind. So where doshas are our DNA, a blueprint, and the yoga studio is what triggered this kind of thinking. There are three mahagunas that we talk about in yoga and Ayurveda world. Sattva, because people are like, oh, I need to achieve sattva, rajas, and tamas. So sattva is ideally the place that most people aspire to be, peaceful, calm. But again, Ayurveda will tell you extreme of nothing is good. If you're always that satisfied, where is your fire, your passion? That is where rajas comes in, which is your passion, which is your fire, your ambition. But we can have all of that. But if we don't sleep enough, how are we functioning? So that's where you need a little bit of tamas, which is sleep, which is dullness, which is lethargy. But again, that balance is so important. Like in the yoga studio, we do the alternate nostril breathing or these yoga poses or asanas or deep meditation, ultimately to cultivate sattva. But you can't succeed in your career, in a way where if there is no rajas. So it's also important to know that these mind qualities impact, and they are forever changing. Someone in a war zone might be in that place of rajas because it's survival, versus someone who's dealing with depression might be very high tamas because it's dark, it's heavy, it's dull, very similar to kapha imbalance in many ways. Versus someone who just did a 75-minute yoga class and they're like, this is bliss, which is sattva. So while we work with the doshas as an Ayurvedic practitioner, I will also work with these gunas, and you can navigate them through diet. So, excessive like whole grains or vegetarian food or vegan food, wholesome cooking, right, is very sattvic in nature. And Ayurveda will tell us like we need a little bit of sattva, but we also need other kinds of food to navigate anxiety. Versus like tamas would be foods with high shelf life. Something that doesn't go bad will make us dull. Where is the light and brightness? So it's very intuitive when you look at it, like something that doesn't need the light of the day. An onion goes bad, but a packaged noodle thing which doesn't go bad for 6 months, that can't be nutrition. So it's creating that dullness. Versus nothing wrong with getting a drink or two, right? Unless your doctor says no. But like that binge drinking creates excessive rajas, that's passion, anger. So it's all leading to mental health issues. So see how like the diet and the lifestyle can attribute to anxiety, depression, burnout, all of that put together.
Yeah, well, and to your point, it always kind of relates back to the same core things. We need to sleep well. We need to have better balance. We need to eat well. And yet the Ayurvedic lens says, look, we've known this for a long time, and
Right.
it relates it to the doshas, and it gives you a different lens to look at how to have a healthier lifestyle. So that's what I've appreciated about this talk today, Shveta, is that it is a different lens. It's a unique lens, not to you, but to many people, including me. It's still, there's a lot to learn, and how we can supplement what we know with what we don't know, and we can make such better traction toward our emotional health. So, Shveta, how do people reach out to you before we close up? I want to give them an opportunity to know if they have a question for you. How would they reach you?
Absolutely. So please go to my website. It's swetavikram.com. My first name, Sweta, Vikram, as in Bikram Yoga, but with a V, vikram.com. There is a contact button there. It's a very short form. Just fill that out. Let me know what is it that you're seeking help for. I offer a free 20-minute discovery call. So, we understand what your goals are, if you are a fit, and we take it from there then. Also, I'm on social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, as well as Instagram. So feel free to follow me there. I do share a lot of ancient wisdom for modern day living with tons of humor.
Wonderful. Well, I appreciate that so much, Dr. Vikram. Thank you so much for coming on, and thank you for sharing these ancient healing practices. And thanks to all of you who tuned in today to Strong Mind, Strong Body. We'll see you next week.